It's someone who's trying to like make her own way and is bending the rules so that she can go after what she really dreams of achieving. But then there's a lot of talk about like, what are you supposed to want? So in Jess's situation, it's very much her family's like, you have to meet a man and you have to get married. I actually think is a lot of how we grew up as well.
Feels like this movie is like part of who I became as a person. No, but there was, remember the boys team that was at our hotel?
Oh my God, give us seats. Welcome to the table.
We're your hosts, Michelle and Laura.
This is where we talk movies, food, and the ways that they bring us together. Grab a seat. This episode starts now.
We have returning guest, our cousin Erica. You've come in uniform. You have quite the history with this movie. You consider this to be one of your favorite films. How did it feel watching it this time around?
It just feels like this movie is like part of who I became as a person. Like it had such an impact on me as a child for many different reasons. I saw it in the movie theater with both of my parents and my sister. I just remember as a kid, I think I was like probably 10 or 11 when we saw it. And like, obviously there's like some inappropriate stuff in there, but like, it just made me so excited about like being a girl getting to play soccer. And like, it was this like cool, like not everyone was doing it. And it was like, you know, against the man kind of thing. And like, it just made me feel like I was a superhero playing soccer. Cause like, look at these women doing this amazing stuff on film. Like every time I watch it, it like feels like this nostalgia comfort blanket of like being a kid again and like experiencing that movie and the joy and the laughter and like it all comes rushing back like every time.
Well, Michelle, so this is your first time seeing this movie. Very different planes from probably Erica and my experience watching it, but when you turned off the movie, what were your feelings?
As I was watching it, all I kept thinking of was, wow, I know that this is going to be such a different experience than the way that the two of you have experienced this, not just in that I'm watching this now for the first time, but the two of you played soccer for so long. Soccer is a huge part of our family, like our bigger family, but I never played it. Even if I had seen this either the year that it came out when I was 19 maybe, or even if this had come out when I was around your age, like 10 or 11, I don't know that it would have hit in the same way and that it would have continued to be so special to me because I didn't play soccer. But all of that to say is that it did not take away from my enjoyment of this movie, and it did not take away from feeling super nostalgic about this time. I mean, this movie really did feel like a time capsule, which is remarkable considering it has a very British feeling to it. It does not feel like an American movie because it is not. But there were still so many pop culture things that just brought me right back to that time. And the one thing that I could connect with is that I am roughly the same age as these actors, kind of a little bit closer to Keira Knightley's age. One of the things I found out actually is the actress who plays Jess, Parminder Nagra, is actually 10 years older than Keira Knightley. So she was born in 1975. Keira Knightley was born in 1985. So I was able to kind of put myself back around that age at that time, kind of the like early, right before going to college age. So yeah, I very much enjoyed it, and I have many more good things to say, but I'll save that for our next section.
I feel like it's fitting though, Michelle, because one thing that I saw in research is that the director, Gorinda Chadha, she doesn't have really any background with soccer. So it's really interesting that this movie and the idea is very much rooted in a woman who's in love with soccer above anything else and loves playing it. And that love is so apparent in the movie that she clearly was able to kind of take this and then take her wider experience of her own family, which was like clearly very authentic and felt like these were all real things that were happening, which again we will get into. But I think it was like it's cool that you're watching it for the first time and you're saying I have no connection to soccer, because she was also probably in the same boat, whether or not she grew up a lot with it. Probably, for I don't want to speak for Erica, but I think both of us had this different, we're watching it from a different viewpoint, because I can like
Yeah.
feel myself back on the field whenever I watch this
Yeah.
movie. I'm like, oh my God,
Oh,
this
yeah.
was so much my life for most of my
Yeah.
life. Most of more than what my adult life has been. It took up,
Yeah.
many years, which is really interesting. Yeah, I felt myself getting like like a very emotional throughout, but not in this sad way. And Dom brought up a good point that he was like, you're probably remembering like different points throughout your adolescence and like growing up, that you're kind of like attaching to these emotions that
Yeah.
maybe necessarily, it's kind of like a skewed perception with the film. But I also think it's beautiful because like as a 9-year-old girl, the things that we watch and the messages that we're getting, I think are so important at that age, which is, not something that I was really thinking about going back and rewatching this again. No matter what age or what decade you're living in, I think that we as humans are always thinking about our identity and the things that we like
Mhm.
associate with. And I think it's so strange to be my age now and think about that soccer was so much of my identity for all of
Yeah.
these years until it wasn't
Yeah.
anymore. And I was thinking so much about Erica while watching this, because not only did we both play soccer, but we got to play together. We didn't live close by, but thanks to our uncle, like we had the opportunity to play on club teams. We got to travel, kind of like the girls went in Germany in the film. We got to go to Italy
Yeah.
twice as middle schoolers. So it's like,
We got to go clubbing in a
yeah,
Berlin
we
club.
used to
Like,
do clubbing, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Can we also just, for the audience, I know both of you have talked a little bit about your experiences with soccer, but give a tiny bit of backstory in soccer and our family, which is kind of synonymous.
truly just part of our family's identity, and that kind of spread out to not just like the nuclear family of Uncle Joe, but like all of us. And that influence, like, I mean, it's never really gone away. I look at my dad who's like 76, 75, and like he can still run circles around us when he plays. And like was literally the other day being like, hey, are you still planning to like join a co-ed league? Because I'd like to play with you guys. I'm like, you're 80, 100 years old.
One other thing I wanted to mention, this isn't completely connected with this story, but I think one of the things that I'm going to end up bringing up a lot are just these connections between, it doesn't really matter what your culture is. There are just,
Mhm.
when it comes to family, like there are just so many of the same things that happen like throughout all cultures. But I do
Mhm.
think that if we're taking our family history back, I think that one of the reasons that especially Erica, your dad and Uncle Joe and Uncle John, why soccer was always so important to them throughout their whole life is because our parents and their siblings were all born in Italy. And when they moved here, especially the older kids like your dad, Erica, when you move to a new country, there isn't a whole lot to like connect with people on. And I think that soccer is one of those universal things. And I think it was one of the things that they were able to say, okay, like we don't even have to talk. Like we can just play
Yeah.
together and just like let the soccer ball do its thing. So I think that
Yeah.
soccer in that way, at least coming from an American perspective, soccer feels more of like a universal, or football, if you will, in other
Yeah.
countries, but more of like a universal thing that brings us together.
The same thing. That's why I think the World Cup, as like corrupt and whatever happens with it, like it's such a incredible event because it's like besides the Olympics, it's like such a amazing unifier where like the world comes together to enjoy an event. Like it's like when else does that happen?
Well, it's very apparent that you both loved this movie. Michelle, I do want to start with you since it's your first time watching this film. What are some of the things that you loved the most?
Well, I think the number one thing that I loved was something that I didn't know until the movie was over, and that is that it was directed by an Indian woman, Gurinder Chadha. Female directors alone are still rare, even today in 2026. To think that this was made in 2002, and I know it was made in the UK, even though it ended up, I think, getting distributed by Fox Searchlight. I mean, this was essentially an indie film, and for it to have become such I think, a phenomenon, I think is so cool. And I really want to go through some of Gurinder's other films because it seems like she has quite the roster. This is not that she didn't stop at this one. I don't want to like give this away right away because I feel like this was also like in watching it my favorite thing. I loved the character of the dad, and I feel like the relationship between the father and daughter was just like was the heart of this movie. And what made me, I mean, I think I probably would have looked this up anyway, but I noticed that when they ran the credits that she dedicated the film to her dad. And then reading that kind of that story that Jess's dad tells about moving from Nairobi to the UK and facing a lot of prejudice was her like literally her dad's story. He lived there, he moved there, and he had the same struggles. So I don't know, just the fact that she's honoring him in this way through this beautiful story was just like so touching to me.
It felt like there were very specific references to her experiences and their family. And like, that's why it feels so real, even though it's like such a comedy and like silly and all of that stuff. But like, the references to like round chapati and like full Indian dinner and like all of the like nuances of their culture and like praying to Babaji and like all that stuff. Like I just was like I love the authenticity of that. And to your point, like that dad is her dad.
I think it's really, really clear in films when they're real experiences because
Mhm.
some people do have the gift that they can conceive of these things that have never happened. But I think to your point, Michelle, going back to the idea of heart, like it's just so clear that these are real experiences that she pulled from. And not to skip like all the way to the end, but one of the last thoughts that I had at the end of the movie was when the credits rolled. And again, I could be wrong, maybe there's drama on set, but it felt like she definitely brought some like silliness and a lot of fun. There is a lot of like serious tonality, I think, throughout the movie. And she's touching on some really intense subjects that, you know, are experiences from her dad, from her whole family, and from herself, and things that she's probably needed to face. But I love the juxtaposition that like she is able to find like the laughter and the silliness in it, and clearly brought that feeling on set from what I can see by the bloopers. They don't do bloopers anymore, so maybe I'm again
They
using
should bring back the blooper reel. Like
bloopers. That's one of
the
the things
DVD option of bloopers, like
yes.
miss that.
I shouldn't be generalizing, but to your point, Michelle, like it's makes me so much happier that this is like a female director showing this female experience with real, you know, experiences with her own family and is able to like bring out joy in others while doing it.
How much of an awareness did you have as kids that did you know that this was directed by an Indian woman or by a woman or that
No, I don't think I thought about I just think as especially, you know, during the ages of like 10 and when I'm watching movies, I didn't really think as much into that. Now, as I'm older, I start to like watch a movie and then dissect all the details after. And I'm usually looking up who the director is and the stories of the, the characters. Like, I feel like in my mind, it was always like, yeah, this is Jess Minda and this is Jules. And like, those are the characters. Like, I wasn't even thinking about Keira Knightley.
I feel like I had slightly different experience with that because like I am such a fangirl. So like even when I was 10, like I would become obsessed with actors and actresses in films that I loved. Jonathan Rhys Meyers. I mean, I literally was like, how old is he? Where is he? How can I meet him? I blame my Aunt Dawn for buying me a People magazine subscription when I was 7 years old. Just gonna say that. It's her fault. I also knew a lot about like Keira Knightley and I knew a lot about Parminder and not so much Grinda Chadha, but yeah, I just remember as a kid being like I watched it so many times and I like felt like I knew them as like people too.
In our Little Giants episode, we were talking about how I had a crush on Devon Sawa when he played Junior Floyd.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
asked Laura because I was like around 10, 11 when that movie came out. So then Laura and I were trying to figure out, okay, well, who did she have a crush on when she was 10 or 11? And she said,
wait, see if she can guess.
Okay, guess.
Who do you think that my crush was when I was 10? Think about the movies we watched a lot.
Leonardo DiCaprio? No.
More connected to your family. Like your mom would have been, I'm sure, was very proud of this crush.
Yes, obviously. I know the answer to this. It's Hayden Christensen. Duh. Hayden Christensen. It was Hayden Christensen. 100%. Yes, I remember.
Not to repeat this story, but I told Michelle that which I feel like you were probably a part of, but I went on my dad's computer, took pictures on Google and put it in a Word doc and printed it off and it was in my room. On like a Word.
I 100% was there with you doing this because I also probably did the same thing for Jonathan Rhys.
Yes.
The name sounded familiar, but I'm like, I don't know if I know who he is. And
Irish actors are just on a different playing field. There is like actors, and then there's Irish actors, Irish male actors.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like he also has had a lot of demons and like wasn't in like a good way. And like, but he was in that show The Tudors, which was like really, really popular. And he was like, people were like, this man is like Cillian Murphy level, like acting chops. Like he was like tagged as like gonna be like the next big thing. And then, the drugs and the alcohol and all that stuff. Like it's just really sad.
Actually brought up a little bit in the movie. I know that was probably to the character specifically, but I'm sure like that felt relevant for him.
Yeah, because I mean he's young in the film too. I think he was like 26 and a half. Like I knew how old he was. No, I think he was 24. But 14-year age difference is like whatever. Really? It's not a big
It wasn't okay for the last episode you were on when it was Colonel Brandon and Marianne, but this is okay.
But this is fine. Yes.
No, they had like 40 years age difference. Okay, that was not okay.
I just realized that.
So Jess is actually older than Joe in real life. So
but in the movie, like, because I know that uni is different in the UK because people graduate and then they have like a gap year. I was thinking they're probably like 20, like 19, 20, and he was probably like 24, like his actual age.
He was probably like his actual age.
Can we talk more about just the early 2000s? Because I don't know, there's something about the way that this movie is filmed with a lot of these kind of like intense zoom ins and twists and graininess and just almost like a frenetic kind of energy through in certain scenes where I felt like it fit, but I felt like in the beginning I was a little jarred by it, and then I was like, you know what? No, this feels like I'm in 2002.
Yeah. I also think there's an element of her influence, it seems like she has like influence from a lot of Bollywood films too. So like she was able
Mhm.
to kind of bring that love for movies that she probably
Mhm.
watched growing up into this.
Yeah.
But then in combined with like the time period, the fashion is huge
Yeah.
in this movie. Like all of Jules's
Yeah.
outfits in particular are very reflective
Yeah.
of the time. So it's like interesting to
Yeah.
go back and watch it now and see that people are dressing that way.
The whole vibe of the movie screamed like early 2000s, like the soundtrack. Oh my god, like when those like Independence Day and like some of those other songs came on, I was like, it just was like this blanket of like warm, like non-problematic teenage, like just greatness. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why I think people keep coming back to these films and like the films from this era because it just felt like problems were not as problematic as they are now. And like who wouldn't have loved to like grow up in like early 2000s London? Like I feel like it was just so just like I don't it's so cool. Yeah, and but I agree with you, Michelle. Like at first, you kind of have to like reset your expectations of like, oh, this is not going to be like a polished, like beautifully produced film.
I love seeing the digital cameras.
I also loved the phone scenes when all the aunties, like the fiance's phone was ringing and all the aunties were like, someone's calling me.
The girls in Jess's family and like Pinky were very, like
Mhm.
wore a lot of makeup, but there was not a girl in this movie who I felt like had this, like TikTok skin.
Mhm.
Everyone looked like they were like real people. And that was really
Yeah.
refreshing. I don't think that
I miss that.
exists anymore in movies.
And now that like people do that and then they put on filter on their
Yeah.
photos,
Yeah.
which is like
I
so.
think that was oh my god, now I'm like, I looked up everything and now I know everything, but like, wasn't that Perminder's like actual scar on her leg?
I
Yeah,
think
I
it
did
was,
read
yeah,
that.
kind of similarly about her playing on the field. She was nervous that they would cast her in the role and then she would have to wear shorts. So she wanted to like be up with them. So she ended up like writing that into the script. Which is like I don't want to make assumptions, but if it was a male director, he
Yeah.
probably would have been like, sorry, we're gonna find someone else.
I mean, that's like
I mean, talk about
next
like
level.
realness. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, love that so much.
Keira Knightley is obviously like perfect and she was like 16 or 17 or whatever, but like even she like they made sure she like looked like she played soccer. You know what I'm saying? Like my biggest pet peeve with soccer movies is like when they make the girls look like they're not playing soccer. Like their hair is down and they look like they're like don't sweat and like don't, have bodily fluids and like just perfect. And I'm like, this is not what soccer looks like. Like you smell and you're sweating out of every orifice and you can't breathe. So that's what this needs to look like.
But I think it's a really empowering movie for younger girls to watch again. I think I said this in our last episode. This may be an ongoing theme for the season, but when it comes to films and like songs and the pictures in a magazine that girls are watching, and like to see this movie and to see that it's someone who's trying to like make her own way and is quite literally bending the rules so that she can go after what she really dreams of achieving. But then I think there's a lot of talk about like what is like the quintessential like beautiful woman and what does it mean to be going on 20. What are you supposed to want? Are you supposed, whether or not it's like part of your culture? So in Jess's situation, it's very much her family's like, you have to meet a man and you have to get married and then you can kind of figure out what you want to do from there, which I actually think is a lot of how we grew up as well. We kind of grew up in a definitely more strict households. We couldn't do a lot. So there's a lot of, I think, elements that I definitely connected with in this movie. But I think like playing soccer, and I'm trying to remember being 10 and like remembering how I felt if I kind of had those feelings of like, well, am I pretty? or am I like too, sporty because I like to wear like my soccer shorts and stuff like this? And like, I think the answer is that women should be able to dress or play sports or do whatever they are interested in and feel whatever makes them feel most comfortable in their own skin. And especially from a young age. And I don't think that that's something that is, I think we've gotten better, but I think that we still have miles to go to really have like early conversations with women about how to give them confidence, not cockiness, but confidence to feel like, does this feel true and authentic to me? Does this make me feel like I'm strong and comfortable in my own skin? And
Yeah.
I wish that I would have had that when I was younger, because I think like there is this element of playing soccer and you need to be tough and you need to like act a certain way. But then when you're off the field, you're like, straightening your hair and like putting on lip gloss when you're like going to the mall and want to look cute around this boy. So I feel like there's kind of these like identity crises in a way, especially for like younger women, and then even more so if you're at Jess's age. And I loved to see her create this character who is so like, she's like, no, this is who I am. And this
Yeah.
is what I feel comfortable with. And this is what I am interested in. It was so apparent from the
Yeah.
beginning of the movie. And I
Yeah.
don't think that we get enough characters like that to look up to
Yeah.
and have as role models.
I think about like specific scenes in that movie where that rings true. So like the locker room scenes, I know those were like insignificant, but like to me it was like those were like felt very real based on like the types of like locker room discussions or like interactions we had, or like the girl who was like a little more reserved and like didn't just want to be like ripping her shirt off, and like that was like Jess, or like they need a tampon or whatever. And like I mentioned the club scene before, which also was like very formative for me. Even that, which could have been construed as like, oh, it's the like ugly duckling turning into like a beautiful swan kind of cliche moment. I actually like, I didn't see it like that. I saw it more like what you're talking about, Laura, where it's like, you don't have to be one thing and you can explore all the different angles of yourself. And like, it could be like you are the beautiful clubbing girl, or you're the sporty girl, or you're the more like moderate girl. Like, you don't have to be one type of girl kind of thing.
Not to get super deep down this hole, but I think this is such like an apparent theme throughout the movie too, where it's like, if you play sports, you're this very like masculine figure, right? And like no man is going to want to date you, or but like it's scientific, there's like masculine and feminine energy in all of us, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't think that films show women are complex and we have different sides of us. And like when we're also, as humans, are very like adaptable. So when we're in certain spaces, we usually adapt to the people that surround us. But I thought it was cool to see this character as Jess, like, she was rolling her eyes a lot of the time when she's like surrounded by family and is in these situations she very much does not want to be in, or having these conversations that she doesn't want to have. And I felt like she like stays true to herself from the beginning to the end of the movie. She obviously grows because she has more like courage to fight a little bit more for what she wants instead of being a little bit more submissive. But I don't think that she ever like loses herself.
I feel like it makes sense now to know that Parminder was older playing this role of Jess, because I feel like she does bring a maturity and energy into Jess's character that you guys can speak to this more. I felt like I didn't know anyone who was like that, who would have stood up to their parents in that way, who would have, to have the maturity to even know that I really like this thing at that age. Not that I feel like it felt inauthentic, but I truly feel like they cast the exact right person to play Jess.
Well, I feel like a lot of the movie and the kind of like development of the act 1, 2, and 3, like she does have to sneak around a lot. Like she continuously throughout the movie has to one up her like the next one. I feel like they get worse as it goes on. She keeps kind of digging herself this bigger lie. But I think when I was reading, I'd never thought about it this way. But when you think of like the term bend it like Beckham, it's like, about David Beckham and how he can bend the ball a certain way. And it's more of like a soccer term, but it's more about Jess like bending the rules and like bending
Mhm.
the rules so that she can go after what she wants. So I just think it was I know we use the word authentic a lot in 2026 and a lot on this podcast, but that's like the number one word that I think of when I think of this movie is authentic. How were your experiences like watching interactions with her family? Because as much as we get a lot of soccer games and action scenes, and then obviously we have the story of like the love triangle and we have Jules and Jess, but the family is 50% of the movie.
The family is the part that I could more relate to. And even though we're seeing an Indian family portrayed in this movie, I hinted at this a little bit in the beginning, but I found so many similarities between Jess's family and the kind of family that we grew up in. We're not privy to like the whole big backstory of Jess's family and life. Like, did everyone come over from Nairobi or just her, her
Right.
dad's family? But whatever the situation was, they had family in this place where they ended up settling, and which is exactly our parents' story. They came here from Italy. They're immigrants, came to America, and they had family that was already living here. I think they were kind of like the last group, if you will, of their bigger family to come here. But I mean, from all the stories that our parents have told us and our experiences of getting together, I mean, we of course had many gatherings that were just our aunts and uncles, so our parents and their siblings and their kids, but also many, many gatherings of their bigger family that looked a lot more like what we're seeing in this movie, with lots of, extended family, and really like any Italian person is like, yeah, they're related to you. Like, don't, like, don't worry about it. Which is kind of the vibe that, that I got from this. And just, from what I do know about Indian culture, I don't know how much Indian culture differs in the United States versus in the UK, but I think it's just one of the things that I've always loved the most about Indian families is just how they really feel like such a unit. I love how the kids call their elders like auntie or uncle. Like
Mhm.
it makes you feel like, I know we see the flip side of this in really not having privacy, like everyone's kind of like in everyone's business, but the positive of that is that you're always, because there's so many people, like there's always something to celebrate, and they do celebrations so well.
I love the number one most important thing is like respecting your elders. And there are extremes to that, right? And that's like, Jess's whole character development of like, well, some of these rules are way too strict and I need to bend them because they work for me. And like, in a way, she was able to kind of like change her family and their views to kind of like see that the end goal is like, yes, we've been through pain, but we have this future and we all deserve happiness. And this is what Jess is looking for. We're going to kind of come together
Mhm.
and support her by the end. So I thought like she did a really great job of wrapping that up. But like, I think respecting your elders is something that we've kind of like lost a little bit
Yeah.
in society. And I think it's naturally like our ages where grandparents have passed away and maybe we're not like getting together as often as we did when we were younger. But I really think that's such a beautiful ideal that I hope that like we can instill in like future generations to like think of your elders as not people just barking orders at you or trying to stop you from living, the life that you want to live, but like working together so they can like share their experiences and you can like honor, their life by respecting them.
You could sound so cliche, but like you could feel the love, even though it was like twinged with like a lot of disdain. Like it was all coming from love. Like her mom and her dad, like they were like, we want you to survive and thrive in a way that like we struggled with, and we don't want you to deal with these struggles, so that's why we're being this way. And I think like we all can relate to that, coming from like a very traditional type of like family from Italy, where it's like we're doing this out of love, even though it feels like we're trying to like suppress you and don't want you to follow your dreams. Like we're doing this because we love you and you'll thank us later. But I think the nice thing about this film is like it didn't make them the villains, and yet there's still an opportunity for compromise to be had. I just felt like it was like a love letter from Grinda to her family, but also a kind of like a, hey, I became this director and like did something different, and that's okay.
So
Yeah. And I think also just like the character, like Pinky's character, her sister, kind of foil of like what it looks like to follow, even though she was a little bit like, risque, whatever, but like this is like what the path looks like. And she was still happy at the end, right? Like, so it was like, that's why I feel like it was a love letter, because it was like Pinky followed the traditional route of like getting married and having a baby and stuff. And like she genuinely seemed happy and fulfilled at the end, right? And then her sister, cut from a different cloth, followed her own path and like was happy. So it wasn't like an indictment on her culture and how she was raised.
I know we have given all the praise to Jess, but talk a little bit about Jules's character and Joe's character, because again, the family is a big part of this, but the love triangle is definitely very in our face throughout, while these really exciting like soccer moments are going on. Is there a character between, let's say Joe too, all three of them, that you feel like you identify with the most?
So Jules's character,
Sorry, not to interject, but sorry, all the
yeah,
small facts that I read, they were trained before this movie. And apparently the coach that trained them was like, if she had trained since she was like 10, she would have been a professional soccer player. She was really, really good.
She looks so athletic.
no, I feel like, okay, so going back to the question, Jules's character, she, oh my god, she was so unbelievably relatable to me. Like, not in the sense that I was like her, like the cool, like confident, like leader. Like that was not me. But especially like her relationship to Joe, where it was like she was like, oh yeah, we're like dating, like, it's not a big deal. Like she was very coy about it. Like I remember feeling like that about some of like our soccer coaches, where it's like you have this like such an intimate relationship that almost is like, are we dating? like
No, honestly, yes.
do you know what Laura understands what I'm talking about? Where it's like totally in your mind, because you're all just like in this like intense program and like all striving for the same thing, and then the highs of the wins and then the lows, you're like, and like I just remember being like like feeling like there's like relationships there that like we totally made up in our minds, and like not just the coaches, like some of the other boys teams players and stuff, where we're like, we're dating, like we are literally dating. And that's why she was so hurt. It wasn't just because she was like, oh, like I liked him. Like it was like a betrayal. Like she was like, you betrayed me, Jess, because he was mine. I was like, girlfriend, I get it. I would be crying on the bed feeling exactly how you feel.
It's also balled up into like her life. Like he's
Yeah.
such a fabric of like her friendships and her professional life, which is soccer. And he's also a mentor for her. And then she also ends up developing this really wonderful and beautiful friendship with Jess. So it's like she kind of lost all three. Erica, that didn't happen
Formative.
in 8th grade in Italy, did it?
No, but there was, remember the boys team that was at our hotel?
Oh my God,
And
give
this
us
was in
deets.
Okay. It's really not spicy. I actually remember
it's
this
not.
entire night, but they were like, there was a European boys team. We were 14, like 14 and 15. So we went 2 years in a row. So the second year we went, we were like a little bit older. There was one night where the boys team was like around and our groups just like merged and we were all just like sitting. We were just sitting and talking, I think, for like 2 hours. And I'll never forget this conversation that Erica and I were having with this guy who Erica fell in love with, by the way.
You were dating.
Erica was dating.
Wait. All right. So this is in Italy?
Yes, this is
And
in
where
Italy.
is this conversation happening?
In the like, so every night we would like eat dinner in like the cafeteria of the hotel. And there was this section that was kind of like the bar area, but obviously we're not allowed to drink. So, but it was kind of shut down because it was later at night and we all were kind of in like the cafeteria chairs chatting.
Okay.
And there was this
But
guy.
the boys were drinking because like
Yes,
Europeans
they
have
were
different
18.
drinking rules than
Yes.
Americans. So that was like a little
Some of
scandy.
them were 18, so we were like, oh. And one of them was talking to us about how he loves America because we have Wendy's and he loves Frosties. And Erica was like, I'm gonna take off my clothes right now. She was really into it. So he's the one that got away. Like Uncle Joe was like, you guys can't be messing around because we have a game tomorrow. Like we can discipline. We can be distracted.
Skill, sportsmanship,
We're
and
always like
discipline.
getting in trouble for truly doing nothing. It was like the strict parents. Our parents never went on the trips. They were like, you're with your aunt and uncles, you're good. But there was like this element of we would be doing the most innocent things, like wanting to go into each other's rooms at night and just like watch TV. And we were not allowed. Like we would have to stay in our rooms. Luckily, Eric and I were always roommates, which is the best. But we had to stay in our rooms. I remember we went to Canada like the next summer. That was like our big trip. And we watched the movie Knocked Up and we paid for it on the TV. And we got in so much trouble. And I was like, I'm old enough to watch this movie. Obviously, I'm going into high school. This is ridiculous.
I thought that a great question for the table would be inspired by Jess's decision to kind of repeatedly sneak out of the house. So I wanted to pose this to both of you and to our audience. Like, what is like the worst thing that you ever did as a kid along the lines of like sneaking out of the house? So I loved, I'll share mine because I loved your example of renting Knocked Up in a hotel room in Canada, like with your, with your cousins.
Yeah.
And getting in trouble for that because my like worst thing that I did in all of my adolescence was also movie related. And I was going to the movies with friends and we snuck into a rated R movie.
Oh.
When I was like,
were you like 16?
I think so. I was like 15 or 16. And I don't remember. Well, this is how I can fact check exactly how old I was. I'm pretty sure it was the movie The Faculty. But anyway, I can't remember how mom and dad found out, but like, I mean, they talked about that for years, like how bad I was that I did that.
I used to sneak out of the house sometimes. I was like Allison where I knew the floorboard. I don't know about you, Erica. I feel like I should know this. Well, you couldn't sneak out of the house because there was nowhere for you to walk to.
My friend, well, one of my best friends, Emily, had a Jeep that was a big no-no for my dad. He was very anti-Jeep, and she had the extra tricked out Jeep that had no doors or top to it. So it was basically a glorified go-kart. And, my dad had a strict rule of like, you never will step foot in that Jeep. He's like, you know what, Erica? I know so many people that got decapitated.
Several people.
Do you remember it was over?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We pulled up. We were supposed to be going to the beach or something. It was so exciting.
Yeah.
We actually got out and got into the car. And Hugo was in the window like this.
He
He
ran out,
ran.
threw his body on top of the vehicle.
He was like,
on top of it.
He goes, Emily, and she was so uncomfortable, of course. She was like, Emily, I'm so sorry, but my friends got decapitated in this exact view. Their heads got cut off because the car flipped. And Erica was like, I'm not getting out of the car. And he's like, you are getting out of this car immediately. He's like, especially if Laura's visiting, and if she gets decapitated, then I have to explain to Anita that her daughter's, he kept saying decapitated. He was like, you're both
He kept saying
it in this car. I was like, can we stop talking about heads falling?
And he just said it so casually. He's like, I know so many people that got decapitated, which was clearly a lie. But like, to tell the girl driving the Jeep, like, and then he was like, all right, well, enjoy your ride home.
We're definitely the children of our parents, because these are the most lame sneak out stories.
Yeah, I want to hear from.
We're so innocent. Yeah, we want to hear from you guys. What is
tell us? Yeah, and you can be anonymous. Like, tell us your best stories of the stuff you got into. And also, like, I want to recognize, like, I always try to think about who's the type of person who's gonna find this video on YouTube or find this podcast in Spotify, and obviously it must be someone who liked this film. So I like to think that they may be people like us who also came from strict families and just want to hear the creativity of the bad things that you got into, but also bring this question to your tables. Maybe not a table with your parents at it, but maybe with your cousins or your friends.
I don't know. I feel like parents now, when you're older, they'll start dropping like things that they did, even though they weren't bad. But my mom she didn't do anything, but she'll slip in the most like R-rated stories that I was like, whoa, okay, I did not ask for this.
Like, I just found the scenes in the film funny that were like, as long as the thing aligned with their values, I will give an example. Like, then the parents were okay with it. So like, when I was in high school, I was like, not dating, but like seeing this kid, and like my dad found out, and he like wanted to come to the house and like take me on a date, and my dad was like, no. And I was like, but he's on the soccer team and he plays for one of Uncle Joe's teams, and then like he plays for the high school soccer team. And then my dad was like, yes, invite him over. And so like, I'm not even, that's exactly how it went. In the film, there's like those moments where like you see Joe at the end and he's like playing cricket with the dad, and then you're like, oh, okay, like he got in because he's like aligning to their values. So I feel like that's also like just a funny, like relatable thing. We have to talk about Jules's mom for a minute, but
I'm just both of the moms. I would think it was actually just really good storytelling to show the side by side. There's a lot of the movie where they kind of show like Jules's family, what she's experiencing, different but same. It's just a different, she has a little bit more bend already, and she kind of does what she wants, and her dad is like very supportive. But I think that both of the moms are such comedic relief because they feel so real. Jules's mom, who is so like, it just wants, all she's wanted was like a daughter to come out who lets her dress her up in dresses. And that's like not going to be Jules. And then you have Jess's mom, who is fully focused on making sure that she goes the exact path that every woman in their family has gone in. There's this line, I think, in a lot of movies where, and I think it also always depends on who is making the film, whose perspective is this coming from, and is it appropriate that she's saying these things? And she says a lot of like, quote unquote, what you would say problematic things, but they're very real things that Jules's mom would say. I think the writing and the delivery and clearly the like casting direction of the director just did an amazing job of like really portraying these very real women in their experiences and like pulling from probably how their mothers raised them and how what their expectations were for how their daughters should be and act properly.
Yeah. I mean, I also feel like too the fact that like it was early 2000s and they like had like a gay character in the film and then they like talked about like, you know, like the mom was problematic obviously in her being like, get your lesbian feet out of my shoes and like
Yes.
just being like, you know, very like homophobic and everything, but like in this like Reddit thread I was reading about just like how people are reacting to the film like today, like so many people that are like that I guess are like gay or bisexual or whatever were like commenting in the thread and they were like, oh, this movie was like my bisexual awakening. And they were like, they were like, I'm so appreciative of like how even back then, like the film, like it wasn't like trying to like make fun of gay people. Like it was literally like, this is how society like sees gay people at the time. But like then, you know, they had Tony, like the gay character, and like he was like such a wonderful, like supportive, beautiful friend to Jess and like a beautiful character. And he did this like amazingly selfless thing where at the end where he was like, oh, you know, we'll get married or whatever. And she's like, no, like you have to be true to yourself. Like I just feel like it could have been handled so wrongly.
I have to share my perspective on this whole situation because I knowing that this movie was made in 2002, I think I was confused in the beginning about Jules and Joe. Like I was like, did I miss something? Like are they I'm like, did she say that that's like her brother? Because they seem like they were really close, but kind of to your point, Erica, she was never like overtly talking about how she was in love with him. So then I was thinking like, I mean, her whole vibe very much comes off as a queer person, just like from the outside. But then I was confused. I was like, oh no, like this is not going to be like whatever is happening here. Like because this is 2002, this is not going to be handled well. And as you said, Erica, I felt like it was ahead of its time. I mean, as much as it could have been, I think in this year to have Tony come out and for Jess to be like, that's like totally cool. They didn't skirt around talking about it, but even though the kind of like derogatory, problematic comments that were being made, and most of them were coming from Jules's mom, were like she was very much, I think we're supposed to be making fun of her because of like, you know, her delivery. So it never felt like this is the viewpoint of the director and the filmmakers. And this is what society should think about queer people. I was like so shocked in a good way how refreshing it was to see a movie from this time that like handled queer culture in that way.
It didn't feel like she was trying to make this grand statement either. It was just she was trying to show different perspectives of really people's experiences and who they are and how they show up authentically. I think it has something to do with it being a female director.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. She's very respectful and like does it in a very tasteful way.
And the fact that this was like an indie film. So she also didn't really have to answer to anybody.
Yeah.
I guarantee that if this was made by a studio that it would have gone a different way. I don't know how, but
maybe like a relationship with two girls on the team, but making it like, I don't know. They probably would have not done it in like a respectful way or like in a real way of someone's experience.
Well, I'll be curious. Did you both read that there is some kind of sequel in the works that they're hoping to have released by 2027 when they have the next World Cup, and Gorinda's the one who working on it. So I'm curious with a 2026 lens if they will explore actually maybe like having out queer characters as part of the story.
I hope so.
I think they would because there's so many out amazing women soccer players from like the US team, like Megan Rapinoe and Abby Wambach and like Ali Krieger and Ashlyn Harrison and like all of these incredible women who like back in the 2000s, like, and maybe this is me ignorantly saying this and I need to fact check myself on this, but like I don't recall there being like these like out and proud female soccer players at the time because they were already fighting for acceptance and like to make like a stand for themselves.
I feel like especially like, there was not really that conversation like at all. How do we keep the good and like move into the future? And I think hopefully directors and people who are making art like this are paving a better path.
Again, not to like force it, but it's like, it's just like, it's what it is. Like, it's the reality of like, there's a lot of that are queer players that are on the women's team at least, and like have been through the cycle. And like, if they're going to make a movie about like, that's the current times and they're going to focus on like a female professional soccer team, I mean, that's just like part of it.
Not just this movie, but I think like there's a lot of films where it's very apparent where someone is trying to check a box to appeal to a time or something. They like it's interesting because again, we've taken extremes where now it's like some Netflix or Amazon movie that comes out and is like clearly like the person making the movie doesn't have, that's not their experience at all, or they've never been around a certain community and they're trying to portray it in an authentic way, but it's very clearly not authentic and it's very forced because someone told them that they had to put it in. Whereas like with this movie, they probably would have wanted to go further, but they knew they couldn't push their limits too much. But she did it in a way that felt very like human and represent all different types of people. I think it's getting better, but I also think there's this element of like, I hope that like the right people are sharing these stories and like sharing these perspectives where it can really come from a place of like truth and like make people feel seen instead of like a box that's checked. All right, well, we clearly have had so many good things to say about this film. I want to hear from you, Erica. Is there anything in this movie that you don't like?
Yeah. Oh, there's one. Okay. There's one. This is so stupid, but like, you know, the cheesy like 2000s, like Joe runs after her at the airport. And then like, there's this extremely cringy moment, even though he's like beautiful, when they kiss finally. And then she's walking away and he like bites his lip. And I'm like, oh, like, oh, nobody does that.
Since that's your only thing that you don't like, I'm gonna build off of that because the only things my dings at this movie are actually all related to Joe. I think he's a fabulous actor. I think that he's well cast for this role. I think that we need less of Joe clapping, of Joe running. I was like, this man almost played professional soccer. This guy. Did you see him run through the airport? Was I the only person that caught that? And then the third thing, Joe dancing. Never bring him to a club. He should have.
I'm never going to say Joe dancing at the club because I also cringe at that too.
I did not. I just wanted to see him in his tracksuit on the sidelines, looking serious and yelling at Jasminda.
Yeah. But he's also a person. I mean, who dances really awkwardly, apparently kisses really weirdly, and like has flaws, I guess.
Michelle, anything for you?
It has to do with the actor.
Also, Joe, like I said, I think in the beginning of the movie, I was just kind of confused where all of this was going. I definitely never felt any connection between him and Jules. And I didn't really feel the connection between him and Jess either. There's, of course, this like shadow hanging over that he's their coach. And so I think going into him, like he's their coach. So no matter what happens, no matter how cute he is, no matter how they justify this, like in this situation, like this doesn't feel right if
Yeah.
he's in any way like their superiors. And it's just even the fact that he was out with them at that club, like socially, should not have been the case. And
Yeah.
I don't want to make this sweeping statement that like guys there shouldn't be guy coaches for girls, but I mean there are bad things that happen. Like we've had
Yeah.
really bad situations that have happened, like in
Yeah.
things that have happened on, teams that we know people that have been on. And
Yeah.
it's tough. It's a tough dynamic. But like you said, Erica, like it's not an excuse for like grown men to do the things that they do, especially in like some of these actually like legally bad situations. But you form these bonds, and like that is just kind of like human nature for love sparks to happen. But I don't know. It all just made me really uncomfortable.
I feel like looking back on it, I can definitely like appreciate that perspective of like this probably isn't the like beautiful love story that I think she intended it to be, because there have been so many problematic situations with coaches like abusing their power over the players and the intimacy of the relationship, and like not knowing that as a 10-year-old and being like, oh my god, this man is beautiful, and like of course they're gonna fall in love and run off into the sunset because that's how we thought love was when we were 10. They kind of tried to skirt around it by making him such a young coach, because they were like, well, it's not like a creepy older guy like hitting on these women, like they're like close enough in age that it's
Mhm.
like passable.
Yeah, I think that's where it's like it's a tough line to draw, because I think the like he felt like not that much older than them, and it was just kind
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
was
And
a
he's really not.
young.
I didn't really have as much of a problem with the age difference. It
No,
really
Mhm.
did feel
I
like they were the
agree,
same
and you
age,
know what?
but
I don't really think it brought like that much more to the movie. Honestly, if there was like no love interest in this movie, I think it would have worked really well. If it had been more of like a power dynamic of like him maybe giving Jess too much attention because she kind of becomes the star, I think that could
Mhm.
be interesting, because yeah, like I wasn't really like rooting for him to end up with either of them. And I don't think it added a lot to the movie.
it would have crushed
Yeah.
Erica's
No,
10-year-old.
she would have been happy because she would have been like, I have a shot with him.
I have just one more thing that I didn't like. I really don't think that I would have ever made it as an athlete, even if I tried, because the locker rooms and the little, I don't know, do you call it a dugout if it's like for soccer, wherever Joe had to sit,
The bench.
everything looks just like so like dingy. The locker rooms look so dingy. I'm like, this is just like a mini, like a half step above like a barn or like a horse
Honestly,
stall.
to be fair though, we didn't, I guess besides like soccer in high school where you had to get dressed before, it was like the gym locker room. So we never had to
Yeah.
like get dressed at the opposing school's locker room.
No, but do you remember when we went to Italy? They had they like thought we were really gross because we didn't shower immediately after the games, even though they didn't wear deodorant and smelled terrible.
I hated
There was
those
just
locker.
a hole in the ground where you peed. Like there was
Yeah.
no toilet. You just peed in a hole.
Wait, for real?
Yeah.
No, literally. You would stand and pee into a hole.
I honestly always thought that was like a normal thing.
And
I
get
was like,
pee on your feet.
this is just like what locker rooms are.
I'm horrified.
Erica, I want to hear from you. Do you have a favorite scene and a favorite quote?
The one from her mom, Jules's mom, about Sporty Spice.
All I'm saying is there is a reason why Sporty Spice is the only one of them without a fella.
A lot of Jess's moms, like just her comments about like Jess and like her shortcomings and how, and then her like looking at Babaji and praying to him. Like those are like some of my favorite moments. Her mom, like straight up just like Jess will like be pouring her heart out to her. And then Jess's mom will just like completely not hear her and then be like, see how she lies? So it's so relatable because you're like trying so hard to get them to understand you, and like you're like, this is me, and I'm like bearing it all in front of you, and then she's just like not hearing you and being like,
And she's like the best. She's such a great daughter. Like she does nothing wrong.
my favorite scene. I know you guys like hate the club scene and like Joe dancing, but I just like I want to be in a Berlin club listening I Turn to You and like dancing in like a skimpy outfit. That's like what I would be doing. Like it just I love that whole scene. I mean, I will admit now watching it back when Joe like tries to kiss her when she's clearly drunk and falling over is like
Dietrich is
not
60.
okay.
I'm just throwing it out there.
That's true. That's true.
He-
You're right.
but he went after her. So what did she think was going to happen?
Right. Like he knew what he was doing with that funny little dance and then running after her. No, sorry. My favorite scene is definitely the iconic scene of her taking the final penalty kick or free kick. It's a free kick. And then the wall is her aunties and her mom and her sister.
So the director's actually in The Wall. That's like one of her cameos.
She is in the wall too.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's an iconic scene.
We talked about this scene already, but I think my favorite scene was when Joe comes to the house and we learn the dad's backstory. And I loved that scene even before I read that that was based on the director's dad's real
And
story.
you love it because it involves tea and cookies.
Yes, that was it. Like I like the idea of like someone dropping by someone's house and even though they didn't like him, still inviting him in, sit down, have some tea.
That's like what Erica did when we visited her.
It is. Yeah, and then I liked having that little bit at the end of the dad and Joe playing cricket together. So I like to think that like Jess inspired her dad to go after his dream as well. It's not too late.
Yeah, that's true because he said he wanted to be a cricket player, and then you see him at the end. Oh, I didn't even connect that. Yeah.
Favorite lines? I'm obsessed with the dad. I like when they're at the wedding and he lets her go and he says, "Play well and make us proud." And then my favorite line from Jess's mom is that after the family agrees that Jess can go play soccer in America, she says,
At least I've taught her full Indian dinner. The rest is up to God.
Perfect reflection. Well, in true Laura fashion, I do have a lot of quotes, but my favorite scene is also the dad. And it's usually not, I don't know, I guess I'll have to go through the film to table archives, but I feel like mine are usually at the end. But which kind of ties it in a knot, Michelle, of the dad telling his backstory, but how he like leaves it off. I like always get emotional during this part where he kind of says like, I suffered, but I don't want Jesse. He calls her Jesse too. I don't want Jesse to suffer. And he's basically saying like, I want her to have her dream and like, she shouldn't need to be, held back just because of like our experiences. And I thought they just had it so well together, like him saying it in front of Babaji and like in, their family room of them like having this, intense moment right after the wedding. I love that Pinky throughout the whole movie calls people cows. She's like, oh, that cow. Like she hates her mother-in-law. Stupid cow. Is like finds out that Jess like snuck around again and Pinky did something. And she's like, why did you give me 2 deceiving daughters? What did I do wrong in a past life to deserve this? And it's just so funny because they're not really doing anything bad, but she's so dramatic. Like they are doing the worst in the world. I also love when she comes home from like going shopping and she pulls out the shoes and she's like, football shoes. Like it's like she brought home drugs. He's so upset. Oh, such a good line. This is like one of the aunties after Jules's mom says, like, get those lesbian boots in my shoes. And she goes,
Your birthday's in March. I thought she was a Pisces.
it just feels like such like an elder aunt thing to say.
And when they're sitting, I love when they're debriefing with their feet up on the coffee table after the wedding. And she's like, but why did that blonde woman take Jasmine to shoes?
She's like so confused. And then a line that I feel like so many people say is like, when she's getting her fit and she's like, even these mosquito bites will look like juicy and then one last scene that I love, following right after when she scores the goal at the end. I love the celebration because it was probably so fun to shoot, but they do the side by side of them dancing at the wedding and then them dancing on the fields. And it's just like this really uplifting moment. It's like finally there's like nothing else bad. Like she's not gonna have to sneak around anymore. This is really, and then like it cuts right to them helping her dress up in the locker room.
Love
and
that.
Folds into her going to the wedding, and she's so happy. Like she's dancing with her dad, and it's like, oh, like see how happy she could be if she's like able to, play and do what she wants. So I just thought that was a really beautiful sequence. This movie has a lot of food moments. I wish that I knew more Indian dishes, and it's like literally so many things in this movie. I just wanted to have like a seat at their table. Like food is so important to our family, and it's like the center of all of our gatherings beyond, some of the individual food moments. I think I just really enjoyed like watching them before Pinky gets married and like how they're all sitting at the table together, like preparing this food and these meals. And like there's always like food integrated into like their celebrations. Like we said at the beginning, a way to show that, they love each other and they care about each other. Like, look at these things that I'm making with my hands. And I think like as much as I feel like I can't relate to Jess in that realm where like she does not want her mom to like teach her how to cook. Like I would have killed for that because her mom is a wonderful cook, but she is very particular like about her kitchen. Like I think that Erica can relate probably. Her dad is also like, this is my territory.
Your mom
like
too.
They want us to cook, but like it's very hard for us to cook together. So I feel like I would love to like go back in time and be like, Mom, we're gonna sit for like 3 weeks and you're gonna teach me from like nuts to bolts how to make like your favorite a proper meal.
Full Italian dinner.
But yeah, other than all the delicious Indian dishes that we saw throughout the movie, the tea and biscuits. I don't know if you noticed in the scene, which was also a great scene, with Jules's parents out on their patio where her dad is teaching the mom about offsides using the salt and the fancy mustard. So cute. But in the background, there seems to be a grill going with corn and maybe some kind of like ribs or something. And it looked, that whole scene, their whole setup out there looked delightful. Yeah.
It looked like such a beautiful, like English countryside patio situation.
In our Little Giants episode, we talked about like snack bar food. And here we get a little scene of like when Tony's sitting with like his douchey friends, stadium food. Like it did kind of make me want like a hot dog.
Yeah, there's not like too much snack bar food.
No. There was a snack bar sighting in the background that I clocked, but it didn't go anywhere.
I'm kind of sad that like in the German montage when they were like visiting Germany and like that great scene of them like taking a boat ride and like going around and like being in awe, like I wish they showed them eating like schnitzel or something like, like a traditional like German dish where it's like that is part of the experience. Like that was part of our experience when we visited Italy. Like we remember the dinners and the meals we had because like, that was a lot of time we spent was like in restaurants and eating because we were playing so much. We were so hungry all the time. So like that's something that also comes with being an athlete is literally just like how much food you're consuming. The nods to like the Indian food was really cool. And like, I was like, oh, looking at like what's a full Indian dinner and like how do you make round chapati?
I also love that her mom has this line where she's like, Again, just kind of going off on Jess, and she says like she doesn't even want to learn how to make doll.
Yeah.
What is wrong with this girl?
There's literally something wrong with her.
But like that's like food and family. Like it's so intertwined.
Okay, so for our dinner party this week, Michelle, why don't you pick the location?
Let's do it in like the location where the almost kiss happens. So like outside of the German club, out on that kind of like,
Mhm.
I don't know if it was like a rooftop or like a deck or just an
There's some
There's
exterior.
like those like
balconies.
torches
Yeah,
out there.
it's like a late
Yeah.
night.
So it's going to be a nighttime event.
Michelle,
Character.
I'm gonna give you Joe.
Laura, I'm going to give you T2's dad. So this is Pinky's
Yes.
fiance husband's dad who wore this fantastic like ascot. He's like a very fancy, snotty man, which I loved.
I love him. He drives that big expensive car, right?
Yes.
All right, Erica, I'm going to give you Jules's dad.
Love him.
All right, Erica, what do you think that Jules's dad is bringing to this post club? Or let's do like a late night dinner after the clubs. Like, what do you think? What do you think he's ordering or bringing?
First of all, I'm just picturing these three people clubbing together.
I'm picturing them very like sweaty and like they all have cigarettes.
Yes.
Like,
I think this is going to be an ordering situation, not a bringing situation, right? Like bring it up to modern day. They're hanging out on this patio and they have access to Uber Eats, the German version. So they can order anything they want, but they're all going to eat it together on this like rooftop
they're just having,
outside
like,
of the
a
club.
late night hang. So
Yeah.
like a pint is also fine.
I feel like Jules's dad, who I think his name in real life is Frank Harper, and I don't remember his name in real life.
Of course you know that.
I mean, in the movie. I feel like he would probably order backyard barbecue type grill, like you were saying. Like he had all those condiments out there. It feels like he's a big dad grill moment, which is funny because it feels like it's a very American dad thing to do, but like he's a very American British dad.
Maybe he just goes for like a Big Mac. I wonder if he also orders one of those like apple pies. You know, like the hand pies from
Like from
McDonald's.
McDonald's.
Yes.
All right. I think because this was the PG movie that we didn't really see this from Joe, but I think in reality that if Joe was in that club, like I know he's an athlete, but I think he's drinking hard liquor.
Yeah.
Maybe drugs are involved. Like I don't, and again, like I feel bad because I know that Erica, you mentioned that the actor got into some of this, but like I think that even though the club part of the evening is done, he's still going hard. Like I think that he's still drinking a lot and he gets the munchies, and I think he ends up using the German Uber Eats to get like a Belgian waffle from like an IHOP with 2 sides of bacon because he doesn't think that one side will be enough. That Jules's dad like asks if he could have maybe like a slice, and he's like, "No, mate, like this is all for me." And they forget to bring the syrup, so he like goes inside back into the club to see if any of them have syrup. And
a syrupless waffle? That sounds horrible. Okay, I think that Tisu's dad, since he's fancy, I think that he like wears like a 3-piece suit to the club. I could see him like showing up and not really wanting to be there, but then he kind of like lets his hair down a little bit and like throws his tie back. Like when a good song comes on and is getting really into dancing and is like sweating a lot, but I don't think he drinks too much. I think that he's a little bit more like, I'll start off with just like one, maybe just even like a whiskey on the rocks type of guy. But as the night unfolds, he like again gets a little loose. So he's feeling involved with these 2 lads that he's graced with. I think that he just wants like what his wife makes him. So I think that he just like finds a restaurant that can like replicate that. And he's also kind of digging into the waffle a little bit.
he sneaks some of the waffle when Joe tries to go
And
look for
he
the
like
syrup.
gets another drink because he's having a really like he was originally supposed to drive home, but he can't anymore. So they have to take the cab back to the German hostel.
Oh no, they're staying in a hostel.
Maybe. Can you imagine if these three people on vacation?
Like roommates.
Like there's 3 beds. Or one of them's on a cot.
I mean, this whole thing is also just like darkly funny because Joe has like clear daddy issues.
Well,
And
that's
so,
true. Now he's with these 2 dads. So he's really
Like,
acting out, I think.
Erica, you are our guest for the evening, so you get to be put in the hot seat for this or that segment. Put yourself in Jess's shoes, literally. Would you rather go shoe shopping for Pinky's wedding? You have to find a shoe with a heel. Or would you rather learn to cook dal?
I feel like I'd rather learn to cook dal for sure. Yeah, because dal is delicious. Have you guys ever had dal?
Yes.
Yeah. Would you rather get caught being comforted by your coach? Or would you rather be caught coming back from a sneak trip to Germany? This is Hugo on the other end.
I mean, yeah, my dad with boys, it's just a big no. So it would have to be, it would have to be getting caught coming back from Germany. But if I was coming back from Germany in a Jeep without doors and a top,
Yeah.
I might have to pick the coach.
All right. What would you rather have up in your teenage room? Posters of David Beckham or that full wall CD wallet that Jules had against the side of her bed?
I wasn't like a huge Beckham fan, so if you could swap that out with like a Paul Walker or like Jonathan Rhys Meyers, then like probably go for that one.
All right. Another shopping question. Would you rather go bra shopping with Jules's mom or dress shopping with Pinky?
Oh, I mean, bra shopping with Jules's mom, like 100%.
This next question. You are you at this age now, not the age when the movie came out, not Jules and Jess's age in the movie. And you have the opportunity to go play soccer for a whole year in one of the following places. Which are you choosing? California, the UK, or Germany?
UK. Immediately.
That's the only right
I
answer.
just love it. I love the UK. I love everything about it.
By the way, I forgot to mention the scene where they go to Carnaby and go shopping when she buys her shoes. First of all, I love Carnaby. I know it's like kind of like a basic shopping area, but I literally bought Adidas sneakers in Carnaby on my last London trip. I was like, I've been here. I've lived this scene.
You went into that soccer shop that they
I don't
went
know if
into and bought your
I don't know if it
Adidas
was-
shoes?
I think it may have just been like an Adidas store, but I'd like to imagine that it was the same store.
And I feel like you would go to a pub after and get a Coke.
Yes, that checks out. I probably did. All right. Would you rather get blamed for breaking up Pinky's engagement or causing your team to lose after you got thrown out of the game?
I feel like I'd have to pick the Pinky one. And the reason I say that is because I know I'm innocent and I didn't actually do it. There's an opportunity to rewrite the like script and like make sure everybody knows that it wasn't actually me and there was a misunderstanding. Whereas the losing the game is like a no, that's literally on you kind of thing.
Last one. Would you rather be a solicitor, which I think is like a lawyer, right? In the UK, it was the job that Jess would have, the direction she was going if she didn't become a soccer player, or be a stay-at-home mom to Titu's baby.
Titu's baby.
Like essentially you would be Pinky.
I mean, a solicitor sounds horrible. Just like the term sounds horrible.
It makes it worse.
So I would definitely pick to be a stay-at-home mom. I feel like if I could have I did that for like 6 months basically when I was on maternity leave and like
yeah, but married to Titu, not married to Gary.
Yeah, Titu just seems like a worm.
Well, Erica, thank you so much for joining. We can't wait to have you on for another great selection. We're going to continue this season with another sports release, which we don't yet know what it will be, but it will be something good. Michelle and I are still formulating our schedule for the next couple weeks. So make sure you talk about all the fun things at your next table gathering, and make sure you come listen to our next episode.
So happy and so honored to talk about this movie. Everybody needs to go watch it again 70 times.